Hey folks, this is Jake Davis bringing you a retro review today. I would like to talk about Creepshow. Creepshow was released in 1982. It was directed by George A. Romero, who did classics like the Night of the Living Dead and Dawn of the Dead, as well as one of my favorites, Martin. And was written by the legendary Stephen King. Now, I believe this was King's first screenplay. I'm not 100% sure about that. I should check it out before I start recording. And the movie also featured great makeup effects from Tom Savini, another legend who worked on Dawn of the Dead, plus, the better Jason movies. And terrific score from John Harrison, and a great photography from Michael Gornick. And the film stars Hal Ashby, Adrienne Barbeau, Fritz Weaver, Ed Harris, E.G. Marshall, Stephen King, Leslie Nielsen, Ted Danson, and Carrie Nye. The setup, the concept of this film was, this is nearly a decade, or a good 7 years, before HBO's Tales from the Crypt went went on air. But the Creepshow is an original screenplay, original stories mostly, inspired by the tradition of the EC comics, horror comics of the 1950s, that were eventually banned and blamed. It's a whole different video to get on. I mean, you can watch Creepshow documentary. There's a documentary on one of the DVDs I got, and there's also all kinds of stuff you can find online. All kinds of stuff talking about the horror comic book ban of the 1950s. I don't really want to go into all that. It's very well documented. It was very messed up, and any horror comic I ever read was a reprinting. I read a lot of horror comics when I was a kid. I really liked them a lot. So Creepshow, when I finally got to see Creepshow, it's probably about 10 years old, and it's an anthology movie. It's 5 stories in the style of the EC comics, very gory, very bright, lots of reds and blues, and like the bizarre animation of like striking effects coming off of people's heads, when they're when they're like shocked or terrified. I mean, like it's animated. It's very, this was before CGI, and it's just fascinating. It's a great movie. So without further ado, let's go through it. The movie starts with a little boy being just utterly berated by his father, played by Tom Atkins, who is a horror movie legend, doing movies like Halloween 3 and Night of the Creeps. And his little boy is played by Joel Hill, who is King's son, as well as like a really respected horror writer of his own right now. I don't really know of anything of his. I mean, I haven't read a new novel in like 15 years, so sorry. Anyhow, So the father he's just infuriated that the boy has a horror comic. It's trash, it's garbage. Look at this, the filthy thing in this rag. People feeding people to monsters, and men turning into plants. It's disgusting. And he slaps the boy in the face, and the kid talks about, this is no worse than what you keep in your drawer. I'm talking about dirty books. And the dad is really over the top and very unnecessary, very much a dick. And the mother, doesn't like it, but she still allows it, stands for it. And he goes downstairs and has himself a beer. Sit back thinking about his good work. And then the little boy sees a creature outside of his window right when he says, "I hope you rot in hell." And the creature shows him the comic. And we go into the comic. We see the first story, which is called, had them written up, of course, Father's Day. I wanted to do this story, a retro for this, back in June for Father's Day, but I did a cooler retro review instead. I did Batman. Anyhow, Father's Day story got Ed Harris and his newly married into this rich girl's family. And it's supposed to be this family get-together, but it's just the two of them, her brother, their aunt and the older aunt coming in. On her way there, you can set your clock by her, Aunt Bedelia. And while they're waiting for her, they regale Ed Harris with a tale of a family murder. Talk about how her father, Aunt Bedelia's father, was very, very jealous and very, very protective and overbearing with her, with his daughter, and eventually had a boyfriend. She got a boyfriend in her 70s, and her father had the guy murdered. While just screaming, Bedelia, where's my cake? Sorry. I mean, I remember my first Father's Day. I had to do that. Anyhow, so she beats him to death with a marble ashtray, and got away with it. So now every year for Father's Day, she goes out to the grave, has a few, drinks some Jack Daniels or Jim Beam, one or the other, drinks some good shit, and yells at her father's grave while everybody waits for her to come inside and eat some dinner. But this particular evening, her father comes out of the grave and strangles her because he wants his fucking cake. Around the same time, Ed Harris and his wife are creating the stereotype that white people can't dance. She's literally fucking prancing around like a pony, and he does this like kind of thing. It's like tied for the stupidest dance move I've ever seen in my entire life. There's that, and there's like the finger twirl thing the guy does in the My Humps video. That's like the most god awful dancing ever done. Anyhow, he goes outside to have a cigarette, decides to go check on Aunt Bedelia when he comes across her corpse. Gets scared, falls into the open grave, and, the zombie uses some force shit to pull a tombstone down and crush Ed Harris. Mind you, this was, this is like before the right stuff or anything. Ed Harris wasn't really like a star yet. Around the same time, everybody's wondering where everybody is. And the aunt goes into the kitchen to check on dinner. She finds the maid dead, finds a zombie, twists her head around. It's such an obvious effect here, I always thought. I mean, she got her hair up for the earlier scenes. She got her hair down just so you can hide the trick of him turning her head all the way around. The siblings go into the kitchen to see what's going on. And right then, the zombie dad walks out with the aunt's severed head on the tray and goes, I got my cake. That's the end of story 1. The next story is The Lonesome Death of Jordy Verrill, based on a short story of King's called Weeds. Jordy Verrill is a rural New England moron. Meteor lands in his backyard. Throws some water on it after touching it like a fucking fool. And he's just, he is a character. This is just quite a character. I just kind of just ran through the story. I didn't really get to talk about, the woman who plays Aunt Bedelia is very, very good. The scene of her yelling at the grave is just terrific. And, the dance scene. But, with Jordy Verrill, there's just all this shit. He wants to take it up to the college. And he'll get no less than $200. And then after he touches it, he starts thinking about them having to cut off his fucking finger. This is going to be extremely painful. It's a whole great. It gets tragic and wild, but it just opens with so fucking funny. The first few minutes of the Jordy Verrill story, well, most of it actually. So Jordy Verrill touches the thing. He throws water on it. When he throws water on the meteor, it cracks wide open. And now, oh god, they bust it open. Nobody's gonna pay for a broken meteor. And pours it out, decides to take it inside anyways, because, you got to try. So, his fingers are really blistering, but they almost look like seeds on his fingertips. So he decides to sit down and watch some Worldwide Wrestling Federation programming there, with Vince McMahon calling a match between Bob Backlund and the Wild Samoan Sika. You're damn right I know who they were. Plus, he also tell you, if you're listening. Anyhow, passes out, drinking a beer, and he wakes up. There's like green shit on his hand. It's almost like a plant, but it's also on the chair where he touched, and on the TV knob where he turned the TV on, and on the beer bottle. When he goes outside, the shit's growing all around him, and instead of like, getting in his truck and going to a hospital, or just, cut your fucking fingers off, man. This might be your best bet at this point. No, he decides to just get drunk, makes himself a screwdriver, and chills out to watch some more TV. He wakes up later and he's even more ridiculous. He's got like a whole beard of the shit now, and like furry hands, and his whole farm is taken over with the shit. And of course, since he's so itchy and he knows he's gonna die, he's even visited by the ghost of his father telling him he's a fucking idiot, don't do it, he still just takes a bath. So, we catch up with Jordy the next morning, and I mean, it is nothing but green everywhere. We get into his house, and he's not even human anymore, the best you can see. And he's totally covered in, it's like a really, really gargly, nasty voice. And he goes for a shotgun, and he begs God, just give him luck just this one time. Aim the chamber, even though it's under what was a chin. And he pulls the trigger, blows off the top of his head, and it's nothing but soil, and yeah, he's dead. And then you hear on the news, as you see all the shit leading from his farm getting up, even up to the road now, it's spreading out so much. You hear about all that rain coming, and, Boston and Maine, the city ain't too far away, wherever city was. Really cool story. And King is terrific. Then we get to Something to Tide You Over. And this is kind of a really special story, because both of the use, how essential the technology of the time is to the story, as well as how massive Leslie Nielsen's career was about to change. Now, Leslie Nielsen was just a year or two out of the first Airplane movie. He'd already done a Police Squad, which was the TV show that became the films of The Naked Gun. Now, after that, that movie was so successful, that's all he did for the rest of his career. I think to the rest of his life. I think he passed away. Anyhow, Leslie Nielsen in this is a deranged, jealous husband who buries his wife in the sand on his private beach, abducts her lover, who was Ted Danson, and does the same with him on way down at the other end of his beach. It's really sadistic, really disgusting, and he lets him drown. Lets the tide kill them. And, because it's EC shit, they come back from the dead, and they put him in the sand, and he's killed with the tide. Yes, that's the whole story. But when I talk about the technology, I mean, like, there's, he's recording them with the big TVs. Like, I still got a big TV. I don't really like the picture on HD TVs in a lot of ways. Anyhow, that's the whole thing. Get off on the whole goddamn awful different thing there. Anyhow, yeah, VCRs and the big TVs, the long cables, so far before the digital age. It's just kind of fun to look all that kind of stuff and talk about even keeping the VCR slot dust free and everything. And there's this great shot, that's my favorite shot of the movie as far as recreating that comic book look of horror comics. Ted Danson underwater, drowning, and it just trapped. There's such a long shot, like the red is like burrowing from behind his head. It's my favorite shot of the whole movie. And Nielsen's terrific in this. Unlike anything you're ever likely to see him ever play. And also the use of Camptown Ladies is so creepy. Like, he's whistling in it, and then later they have this synthesized version of it. And also there's the Tide Zombies, which I would love for me and my wife to cosplay as the Tide Zombies one year for Halloween. Yeah, that'd be a lot of fucking makeup. Anyhow, next up is the absolute best story of the film, The Crate. First, I just want to talk about the cast in this particular story. The always great, legendary Hal Holbrook. The, in my opinion, criminally unappreciated Adrienne Barbeau. I thought she was a solid actress. A fucking a trailblazer as far as strong, badass chick characters in movies. You consider her role in Swamp Thing and escaped from New York, and my God, what a babe! I mean, she is really, really attractive woman, and she was a good actress, like I said. And then you got Fritz Weaver delivering an absolutely unforgettable performance as Professor Dexter Stanley. He is my favorite performance in the movie. And also, at this point, we gotta realize that this is the fourth story in the film, and the third story to have a guy named Richard. What the fuck? Stephen King couldn't think of any other character names. Uh, but the whole setup here is Hal Holbrook. They're both Holbrook and Weaver are colleague professors, like a college. I mean, I was gonna say like an Ivy League, but I don't think it is an Ivy League. Anyhow, Adrian, he is just henpecked. Hal Holbrook is absolutely henpecked and browbeaten and just bullied by his wife, who is insufferable blowhard and a transparent drunk, and just clearly everyone around them at this party they're at is visibly uncomfortable around this woman. I mean, she's like going on talk to him, and like people just looking down, staring at their drinks, kind of stuff. And she's vulgar, and like I said, she's clearly a drunk and abusive to her husband, all this kind of stuff. And Holbrook is actually, despite how I set this up, this is really a funny scene, their entrance, because she's just going on and on, running her mouth, and just like everything about Holbrook's body language and his smile, and even when he says, "Okay, Billy," you just tell this man hates his fucking wife. Now, Dexter, on the other hand, he's a widower who's has fools around with his students, and he gets a call from a janitor back at the school that the janitor's found something under the stairs, a crate under the stairs in the basement. I decided to go down there and look at it because the date on it is 1834. God damn, whoa, that's old. Gotta check this out. What's in here? They open it up and they hear something. I was like, what the hell is that? And the janitor foolishly reaches his arm in. Whatever's in there eats his ass. The crate, goes wide open, and you never get like a full body shot, but it's very, 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 very much, and it seems to be insinuated that this creature is small. Whatever it is probably not much larger than say, maybe like a big dog. I mean like a pit bull or something like this. But consumes multiple human beings, and I mean leaves nothing but a shoe. Anyhow, eats Mike the janitor, just gobbles them all up. And then we see, the beginning of Fritz Weaver's the most hysterics you'll ever see. I mean, he is almost, unintelligible, but just absolutely hysterical. Just laughing my ass off at every fucking noise coming out of his mouth. He runs into a student who, a hard-working, determined student studying all, a guy named Charlie, and he tells him what's going on, and he drags in Charlie, and he's like, got to go see it because he's, the brainy type. And you know where that gets you in monster movies. So he goes downstairs in the basement to go look at the thing, and he wants to study the shoe. He wants to measure the bite marks in the shoe, and the creature gets him. And just a great gory kill. Just the monster's ripping into his neck, taking out hunks, slams his face against the wall, and rips claws down his face. It's just, we were just reaching out trying to do, but I mean, he ain't getting too fucking close. So that's two people that have been eaten alive by this creature, inches away from this guy now. So he just gets the fuck out of there. And while this has been going on, Hal Holbrook has been fantasizing about murdering his wife. He had a fantasy about shooting her with like a dirty hairy gun, like a massive fucking cannon, hand cannon, at the party, and everybody just clapped for him. Good shot, well done, sir. Had a fantasy about strangling her with his necktie. And at some point in this, she's going off to, do whatever she does. She says she's going to play with, she's probably fucking around somewhere, just going to the bar. Uh, and she's, or just, whatever. It doesn't matter what she's doing, because it doesn't matter. There's just this brief moment where she says, what would you do without me? I don't know, Billy. She's like, well, that makes two of us. And then she says something nasty. I mean, it's like literally a brief second, a breath of pleasantness, and then pure nastiness right back on top. I can't remember his name. Henry. Hal Holbrook's character. He's been waiting for Detz because it's, their weekly chess game. And Detz pops up with this bloody, chewed up shoe, and he's hysterical, and he's panicking, and he's hyperventilating, and and he tells Henry the story. He's like, he wanted to measure the bite marks. I guess he got his chance. I mean, he's like losing his mind and just like chugging whatever the liquor there is he's getting. Probably like, bourbon. It looked like bourbon. Anyhow, I guess I just wanted bourbon while I was watching the scene. Eventually, Henry drugs a drink, knocks Dexter out, and leaves a letter for his wife. Tells her, Dexter assaulted a girl at the college, and she's hiding under the staircase in the basement, and, she really needs your help. She needs a woman's touch. I just can't handle these kind of things, Billy. And Billy shows up there, and she's, like, really kind of gross. She's, like, almost excited. She wants to see this beaten-up girl. And, Henry's hysterical. Basically just shoves her under the stairs, starts slamming her in, yelling for the thing to wake up, and nothing happens. And then she starts berating him, talking about he can't make money, he can't fuck, he's just worthless. And then the creature just wakes up and eats her, probably just to shut her the fuck up. So, after he chews her up, and after he cleans up all the murder, he chains the crate back up, throws it into the quarry, which was Detzer's idea earlier, and it goes back where Detzer's woken up. Detzer's very tentative, like, so we're cool, there's no one else gonna die tonight. And Henry's fine, as far as he's concerned, he's not a murderer, he's just looking out for his skull and taking out his trash. It's really cold. Cold EC story. Basically just ends with the guys having a drink and playing some chess. Oh, and one last quick shot of the creature breaking through the crate at the bottom of the lake. And time for the final story. They're creeping up on you. This story is E.G. Marshall is this rich... Okay. It's like Howard Hughes meets Mr. Potter from It's a Wonderful Life. He's this horrible, horrible human being. He's a germaphobe in a penthouse in the middle of the city, and he's recently driven a competitor to suicide, and the woman's blaming him. And he's also at the same time far more concerned with this cockroach problem he has. And it's getting late, and there's a blackout, and he expects the whole city, this entire town, just everybody in the world, the cow town, bend down to him because he's got this cockroaches issue. Eventually, there's nothing really. It's a man fighting cockroaches, real life cockroaches, for about 10 minutes. E.G. Marshall was great. I've always kind of, because it's such a showcase performance, and the character is so memorably horrible, so wicked, so evil, really, that kind of, always kind of felt like he's the star of the movie. You know what I mean? Anyhow, he has a heart attack, and the last moment of the story is the superintendent's trying to get in to help him with this cockroach problem. And at this point, the guy's got no patience. Doesn't care about his job. He's a goddamn honky. Open the door. Anyhow, it'd be like, and all the roaches are gone, except they burst through his chest, and out his mouth and rip his body apart. Doesn't really make any sense, but it's just a great gore effect to end. He's literally buried in the things. And those are the 5 stories, which leads to our wrap-up scene. We see a couple of garbage men taken out. a little humor scene. Tom Savini is one of them. And they're looking at the comic book, that with the stories we all just saw. And cut back into the house next morning, and the dad's neck is stiff, and he starts to panic and convulse like he's dying. And you cut to upstairs, so the little boy's made a voodoo doll of his dad, and it's just poking away at it with a needle. And that's Creepshow. It's a great movie. It is, as I said in a previous video, that I think it is one of the most visually compelling horror movies ever made. A lot of people would probably say Suspiria, but I think Suspiria looks great, sounds great, is great. It's not fun. It's not an entertaining movie. It's not something I want to watch again and again and again. I've seen Creepshow countless times. I watched it several times this week. While I had it out, man, that poster is so fucking great. Every time I had it out, my daughter, I would forget, it was out there sitting on the table, and she would just run to the back of the house and make me hide the bots. But I've always loved Creepshow, and I got inspired to do this after the great series. There's only 6 to 8 episodes, I think it was, but I think it was on Shudder. But I watched that series, and that was absolutely excellent. They did a really good job. I think the best story, in my opinion, was The Companion. That was pure Stephen King, man, down to its core, down to its richness. It was like a Stephen King's greatest hit story. But Creepshow is an absolute classic. It's my understanding the intention for the film was to raise money for a live-action stand film. I don't know why it's a live-action, but for an actual stand movie, which was eventually made, but it was a TV film in 1994, and it's perfect. Almost. The guy who plays Randall Flagg's kind of disappointing, but he doesn't ruin it. Anyhow, what do you guys think about Creepshow? What do you think about its sequels? I say they're atrocious. I liked the Raft story, but both those movies are really, really bad, especially the third one. Yeah, man, I love Creepshow. It's so fun. It's such a blast. It's so visual. E.G. Marshall is unforgettable, and the Crate story is just a classic. Oh man, when I first saw the movie, I was only like 10 years old, and I don't know if you guys ever watched or how it was where you were, but where I was, network TV, especially Fox, was really bad for butchering films. And Creepshow was one of the worst examples, because when they aired Creepshow, the entire fifth story was cut. So the first time I ever saw the movie, I had to watch it a second time, rented it from the video store so I could finally see the real ending of the movie, the E.G. Marshall shit. Anyhow, hope y'all like this video. Hope y'all liked all my stuff. I'm Jake Davis. Y'all have a happy Thanksgiving, and I'll catch you on the fly.